Super Mario Party Jamboree releases next month, and it's looking to not only be the biggest entry in the series yet, but also the true return to form we've been wanting the franchise to get for over a decade. With over 110 minigames, 20-player online, and my boy Toad finally being playable again, this game seriously does have it all. And despite the game already looking insane from what we saw in the reveal trailer, it's now looking even more promising, thanks to the boatload of information we just received with the launch of the Japanese website. We now know of even more new minigames, a bunch of side modes, and all new characters that have been added to the game, not to mention the return of some of the series' best past mechanics. It's really looking like ND Cube, or Nintendo Cube as they've now rebranded, has finally listened to the fans to give us exactly what we've been begging for ever since they took over the series. But I've already talked about that enough in the last video, so today we're going to be going over everything that we know about this game, and I do mean everything. I've translated that Japanese website I've mentioned, and I've also gone over every single bit of footage we've gotten from this game. From the website to the reveal trailer to the little bits of information that we've gotten from Nintendo social media channels, I've put it all into this video, and it did take quite a while, so if you want to subscribe for my suffering, that'd be great too. But with all that out of the way, this is everything that we know about Super Mario Party Jamboree. Let's get into it. Now, before we can really talk about anything else from this game, we first need to discuss the island. This Mario Party, just like Super, has a hub world, only this time, rather than a small walkable area, it's a massive island. We don't have confirmation if this is explorable yet, but if it is, that would be amazing. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you'll know that I love being able to move your character to different parts of a game rather than just selecting from a menu. I've been dying for a Wii Sports game to implement this since the third video on my channel. But even in the more likely scenario that the island just ends up being a glorified level select, I'll still be super happy knowing that all aspects of Jamboree will take place in an interconnected world. It'll give the game a much better sense of place in my opinion, and going back to the Wii Sports analogy, I think that's one of the reasons that Woohoo Island and Wii Sports Resort are still super beloved today. If Jamboree can pull off something like that with its island, I will be super impressed. Regardless of how it's implemented though, it makes my job a lot easier, since these areas across the island hold each of the game's main modes, which means even if we don't know much about a certain aspect of the game, it'll be a lot easier to contextualize footage from it based on where it is on the island. And the first area of the island we'll be looking at is where the main Mario Party itself takes place, and this is the area that holds all the game's main boards. In the reveal trailer, we saw where Goomba Lagoon, Mega Wiggler's Tree Party, Rollin' Raceway, and Rainbow Galleria took place, but interestingly, the areas which are now confirmed for Mario's Rainbow Castle, King Bowser's Keep, and Westerland look to be in various states of construction. We see all of these in their fully completed state on the Japanese website, essentially confirming some sort of progression system where you unlock more boards the more you play, which I absolutely love. Having to unlock things rather than just having everything from the start gives the player something to work towards and, in my eyes, really boosts what you get out of the game. There are also pathways in between the areas for each board, which is making me really hopeful that the island is fully explorable. There's even this little cavern beneath King Bowser's Keep which would be impossible to see inside without a closer camera angle, like a third-person one for your character. I really hope I'm not wrong about this, because this one detail would make the game a million times better, at least for me personally. As for the boards themselves, we've gotten a lot more info on what the main gimmicks of each will be. In the footage for Mega Wiggler's Tree Party, it's first of all worth noting that it looks like item minigames are no longer a thing, being replaced by roulette that just gives you a random item. I am honestly a little bit mixed on this, since although it'll tighten up the pacing of the game, it definitely tips that careful balance Mario Party always has between skill and luck a little closer to the luck side. Even so, with all the other mechanics in this game, I'm pretty confident it'll end up balancing out, so hopefully this doesn't end up becoming an issue. We already knew from the game's first trailer that this board's main gimmick is the Wiggler that will periodically move around the center of the board, altering the route that you'll have to take. But we also get to see on the Japanese website this honey mechanic, where if we look at the translation of what the spike is saying, it looks like you'll get more coins depending on how much honey comes out of the honeycomb. Whether or not there's any player interaction or minigame to determine how much honey you end up getting is still unclear, but my best bet would be it would operate somewhat similar to the tree in Woody Woods, where there's at least a little bit of player choice in determining the outcome, but it's largely up to luck. Although this hasn't been confirmed in any way, I think there's a very high chance of there also being a mechanic where the Wiggler gets mad at some point on the board, whether it be from an event space or just something that happens randomly throughout the game. This could cause all players who are on the Wiggler when this happens to maybe either lose some coins or potentially even be thrown to an earlier portion of the board. In my opinion, I think this is a no-brainer to implement because this is kind of what wigglers are known for throughout the Mario series, and it would also add a really fun element to this board. I have no doubts that this board is going to be really fantastic as it is, but I think this could take it up to a whole new level. Rollin' Raceway is the board I'm personally most excited for because I absolutely love Mario Kart, though if you've looked at my channel's history, that shouldn't be much of a surprise. This board has you driving around in cars, though thankfully not the ones from Mario Party 9 and 10, and those cars had better have some good suspension because the event spaces on this board end up launching you from one portion of the track to another to cut corners. When I originally made the script for this video, we actually didn't have this confirmed. I just inferred it based off the signs that were surrounding these event spaces. However, we now have this fully confirmed based on a post that Nintendo made on their Instagram and Twitter accounts. Each of these event spaces has a corresponding space past the turn that it precedes, and it'll launch you to that space whenever you land on it. But interestingly, there's one set of event spaces that are unlike the rest, instead being next to a charging station. We know this isn't where you receive the quadruple dice, since that's shown to be in the shop here, and there's no charge meter visible in the UI, so this is a bit of a mystery. I could see it just being a star spot, or maybe it's a way to change the location of the star without a chomp call, but we don't really have a concrete explanation as to what this does yet. Right before this set of event spaces, we also get to see our first of the returning unlucky spaces. It's difficult to discern it from the standard red space here, but because they're present on other boards throughout the game, it makes it easier to tell that this one with the faint purple glow on it on top of the red is in fact an unlucky space. And I've heard a lot of complaints about the standard lucky spaces in recent entries, so I think this is a great way to balance that out. Even so, I think the best option would be to have the option to disable lucky spaces, but I doubt that'll end up happening. Goomba Lagoon looks to be the largest of all the boards, and right off the bat, I love the idea of using zip lines to get around. Plus, this pirate Goomba we see in this shot of the zip line looks sick as well. Nintendo, make a plushie of this, stat. One of the main gimmicks of this board is that the water will rise and fall throughout the game. When the water's risen, you'll be forced to take those zip lines I mentioned earlier, as the pathways along the sand have been flooded and made inaccessible. When the water lowers though, you'll be able to use these paths to get around much more quickly. I'm not sure how this will work if someone's on the sand pathway when the water rises, though my best guess is they'll just lose some coins and be put onto the nearest high road. The other main gimmick we see is the volcano. In the initial trailer, we saw it erupt with golden Goombas, which I assume give you coins if you land on a space with them. However, we now see that the volcano can also erupt Potaboos, landing on different spaces on the board to create lava spots that take away 3 coins if you land on them. I'm interested to see if the 3 coin loss stacks with the effects of the spaces normally, like you would earn nothing from a blue space and lose 6 coins from a red space. I doubt it, but I think it could be an interesting mechanic, so I'd be really happy if they did implement it. We also get to see on this shipwreck section that there looks to be a pick a chest minigame similar to those found in Mario Party 9 and 10, where I would guess different chests would have different amounts of coins rather than the mini stars that they had in those games. It's also possible this is an item minigame, meaning that they now take place on the board itself, and the item spaces just give you a random item, as we saw in Mega Wiggler's Tree Party. In the top left of the board, we also get to see the shop there isn't actually a standard shop. Instead of being run by a Koopa Troopa, it's being run by a Magic Koopa, and it has a purple sign, which I think means it's an evil shop. Now, what that actually means, I'm honestly not sure. However, I think it's possible that it'll either only sell items that can actually harm other players rather than just help yourself, or maybe it'll even only sell items that serve as a detriment to yourself. Maybe if you land on that shop space, you're forced to buy an item that works actively against you. I'm not sure if that's the case, but it would be a pretty cool mechanic in my opinion. Rainbow Galleria also looks to be a relatively large map, having 3 floors that you're able to access via escalators. We saw in the reveal trailer that a flash sale could drop the price of stars on this board, and we get to see that in action here. It looks like when you land on the event space, that activates the flash sale. You also get a reward ranging from 1 coin to a golden pipe. While the footage does imply that the event space does activate the flash sale, I am doubting that a little bit, because if you have a chance of winning a golden pipe from this, and then you can reduce the price of the star just as you get that golden pipe, that just seems completely unbalanced. My guess would be a flash sale happens at random intervals, which could potentially be manipulated by a custom item to this board. However, we'll get into that when we talk about items in a bit. The board also looks to have a stamp system where you fill out your stamp card on spaces throughout the board, and if you return to the start with all 4, you get a whopping 50 coins. My only real issue with this is it definitely has the potential to disrupt the game's economy. I mean, 50 coins is a lot to get from a single event. However, I definitely think it could be implemented well, especially because the rest of this game seems to be a lot more conscious of the economy compared to the previous 2 Switch entries. Maybe only the first player to get all 4 stamps gets 50 coins, and the rest will just get less as the match goes on. Regardless, it does seem like a cool mechanic for the board, and I'm excited to see how it actually works in the final game. It looks like you'll be able to stop by the various shops throughout the mall as well, as we see here with this Peepa selling Boo Bells. And I love the idea of having different types of items spread spread out across different stores. I think it'll add a really great element of strategy to the game, prioritizing which shop you're going to try and go for to get specific items. We also get to see a Womp here, and my best guess for this is that you'll have to pay him to pass, just as you've had to do with Womps and Thwomps in previous entries in the series. Interestingly though, he doesn't look to be really blocking anything in the footage, so he's either been already moved aside, or there's some sort of secret area just behind him. I don't know what the symbol is above the area that he's blocking, however it might be a special shop. Most likely he's already been moved aside, but still it's just fun to speculate. King Bowser's Keep looks to have mini-boss battles throughout, working similarly to those in Mario Party 9 and 10, where you have to defeat enemies with dice rolls to progress. These are against large and small Mecha Koopas, with the larger ones naturally taking higher rolls to beat. We also see this gear operated by a Charge and Chuck, who will turn it once each time someone passes by it. 2 of the 4 portions of the wheel have coins on them, 1 has nothing, and 1 has a bob-omb, and I like this a lot better than the Koopa Bank system, which appears to be absent in this game, since because it can sometimes be positive and sometimes negative, it adds a little bit of a risk-reward element as you try to go for it before someone else passes it by. But of course, the main feature of this board is Bowser, who sits in the center of the board and gradually adds more Bowser spaces to the area around him as the game progresses. One thing of note is that Bowser has a purplish glow, something that we see on Bowser in every instance of this game where he's not playable. Most likely this is the fake version of Bowser created by Kamek, since he's hosting the game, and I'm super glad they found a way to keep the existence of Bowser spaces and hazards while still allowing Bowser to be playable. One thing of note is that we never actually get to see what this caged area towards the back right of the board is for. There are spaces leading up to it, so it's definitely not for decoration, so I think it could be some sort of major board event, like maybe even a boss fight against Bowser. That seems like a really fun thing to have in an actual board instead of just relegating it to the side modes, which we will be getting to very soon. But regardless, I really hope it's either that or potentially even something cooler, because since we still know nothing about this, I think it has a lot of potential. Mario's Rainbow Castle seems to have gone through very few changes from the original, though it's here where we can more clearly see the unlucky spaces. I would imagine these are present on every board, it's just difficult to tell in the wide shots that we've gotten since the blue and the red space beneath the unlucky symbol tends to drown out the purple coloring from a distance. I will say I also love this board's main mechanic. Every time someone passes by the star spot, the toad giving the star switches to Bowser, who will give out a fake star at double the cost to the next person to make it there. Additionally, when the star turns to Bowser, now all the shops turn as well, which was not the case in the original, being replaced by the evil shop that we saw earlier in Goomba Lagoon. Western Land also went through minimal changes, though I must say I really love the look of this board. The revamped cliffs and train are looking great. Also, these conductor Shy Guys are absolutely adorable. Nintendo, please make them a plushie too. I need more. But it wouldn't be a Mario Party without all the extra chaos added by items, and it looks like Jamboree has got a lot of them, so let's go over those now. First of all, each board has its own exclusive item that affects the way the board plays. Mega Wiggler's Tree Party has the Wiggler Bell, which will wake up the Wiggler and cause him to move whenever you choose. Rollin' Raceway has the quadruple dice I briefly mentioned earlier, which, as the name suggests, allows you to use 4 dice rolls at once. Goomba Lagoon has the Conch Shell, which allows you to raise and lower the water level at will, making new paths accessible and making it easier to get from island to island, or potentially just stranding the other players. We don't see anything on Rainbow Galleria that's confirmed to be an exclusive to that board, but I think it might be this markup sticker we see, which doubles the price of the next thing that's bought by whichever player it's used on. This could very well just be a normal item, however it's just the only item in the trailer that's seen exclusively on Rainbow Galleria. Plus, its format as a coupon just kind of makes sense in the mall setting. King Bowser's Keep has a lever which allows you to switch the direction of the track in the center of the board surrounding Bowser. Mario's Rainbow Castle has this castle item, and while we never actually get to see it in use, I would guess it will switch whether the Toad or Bowser is at the castle when you use it, given it looks nearly identical to the castle where they both reside. And for Western Land, we don't actually have any idea what the custom item will be for this board, though I would imagine it has something to do with the train, since I would say that's the main gimmick of the board. For the normal items, we also have quite a few. First, returning from past titles are the Double Dice, Triple Dice, Curse Dice, Custom Dice, Golden Pipe, Warp Block, Boo Bell, Chomp Call, Dueling Glove, Mushroom, Hidden Block, Skeleton Key, and the Hexes from Mario Party DS, which I'm especially excited about, since they allow you to place traps on the board that can steal other players' coins, items, or even sometimes stars. The new standard items look great as well. There's a normal pipe, which I'm surprised wasn't already an item, but that warps you to a random spot on the board, a triple curse dice, which curses everyone on the board except yourself, a coin double dice, which gives you as many coins as you can roll, a triple variant of those same coin dice, a shop warp block, which takes you to a random shop, this card that looks to be some sort of coupon for items, and this mirror item, which comes in gold and silver variants. It looks oddly familiar, but I can't find anything about it in previous Mario Parties, so if this is actually a returning item, please let me know in the comments. Jamboree also has the biggest cast of characters in any Mario Party to date. In the reveal trailer, we saw Mario, Luigi, Wario, Waluigi, Toad, Toadette, Yoshi, Peach, Daisy, Rosalina, Donkey Kong, Birdo, Bowser, Shy Guy, Goomba, Boo, Monty Mole, Bowser Jr., Koopa Troopa, Spike, and Ninja all playable, which already surpassed the roster of Super, which previously had the most characters. But Nintendo recently just revealed Pauline is in the game as well, giving her her own trailer. I was hoping this wouldn't be the last character reveal as well, since we still didn't get Diddy Kong, Dry Bones, or Hammer Bro, who were all playable in Super Mario Party, but at this point the full roster has leaked from the PAX demo, and it looks like there aren't any more additional characters. Even so, they still could be added through DLC, so I'm still gonna keep my hopes up a little bit, but even if they don't end up being added, I'll still be super happy with the current roster, because this is absolutely stacked. The partner system is also returning from Super, though it has been heavily tweaked now, and I think it's a lot more balanced than it used to be. Firstly, a character who no one's playing as in a normal Mario Party game has a chance to appear on the board, and when someone passes them, they'll give them some coins and then an advantage in the upcoming minigame that then determines who actually gets the partner. But this isn't just any standard minigame. Instead, this becomes a 5-player minigame in which the partner actually participates in competing against the 4 main players. Honestly, I really wish they could implement 5-player minigames throughout normal Mario Party. The Switch has support for 8 controllers locally. I really wish some Mario Party would take advantage of that at some point. Hopefully that becomes a reality on the next console. Any player with a partner can buy a second item at a shop when they pass by, and can buy 2 stars at once at star spots, though the price per item in stars still does stay the same. The partner will also double the effective spaces, meaning you'll get double the coins from blue spaces, but also lose double the coins from red spaces. It's unclear how this works with the lucky and unlucky spaces, but I overall much prefer the system to what was in Super. I think it's ended up being a lot more well balanced. But now we finally get to move off of the main Mario Party Island and onto Minigame Bay. Although the main Mario Party of course has minigames on its own, in this area there are some brand new modes that actually focus around them. Minigame Bay features 5 main modes of its own, each of which have players competing in various minigames, as the name implies. The first is the Daily Trial, which refreshes daily and has players competing in a series of 3 minigames. From what we see on the Japanese website, it looks like there are multiple series of minigames to choose from, so I'm guessing though this does refresh daily, you aren't limited to 1 play per day, though I could very well be wrong. It is a little bit difficult to decipher what the actual description is saying, since I'm limited to just using translation software and I don't know anyone who actually speaks Japanese, and that applies to anything that relies on text-based descriptions, so please take that with a little bit of a grain of salt. Each of these modes is also associated with its own water sport, which I think is a cool little detail. Again, I really do appreciate that every single mode in this game takes place in some portion of the world. The Daily Trial takes place on jet skis, however the second mode, Tag Match, where you play in 2v2 minigames, takes place on wakeboards. These are being held by Boom Boom, who will shake the cord of the losing team until they fall into the water, most likely after each match. Survival seems to be similar to the online and Superstars. In this mode you compete in free-for-all minigames and try to survive to keep a streak going. This mode is hosted by Pom Pom, with the players being let go from their parasols that are being dragged by her boat if they lose. Next up is the Challenge Battle, and the only description that's given is the player with the most coins wins. Oddly enough, no coin minigames are shown in the footage associated with this mode, so I think you'll get a certain number of coins depending on what place you get in each minigame, and they're all tallied up in the end. Like the regular Mario Party mode, just without the stars. This mode is hosted in underwater submarines, which I think is sick as well. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I really do appreciate all these little details contributing to the world building. And the final mode is just free play, which is essentially the exact same as it was in Superstars. Just play any minigame you want, select it from a menu, choose your CPU difficulty, and you're good. As for the minigames themselves, I'm not going to be going over every single one that we already know of, because if I were to do that, I feel like this video would release after the game did, and that wouldn't be useful to anybody. However, it is worth noting that although we only saw new minigames in the original trailer for the game, it's now confirmed that there are plenty of old ones returning as well. There are even some from Superstars like Leaf Leap and Bumper Balls that have returned 2 games in a row, and they weren't even just ported over from that game like I would have expected. No, they've been entirely remade. I am so impressed with the amount of effort that's been put into this game. From the animations to the UI to the just overall presentation, everything is just done incredibly well, and it really seems apparent that this has a much higher budget than the previous Mario Party entries. Everything just seems to have a much higher level of polish. But while the minigames are cool and all, the real online mode everyone cares about are the Bowser Challenges, where up to 20 people can compete online. The first of the 2 modes hosted on the Bowser Challenge Island is the Koopathlon, which we saw in the reveal trailer. This mode has players simultaneously play in coin minigames, and for each coin a player gets, they advance 1 space on the path to the finish. At times, all 20 players will also partake in a massive 20-player minigame against Bowser, and it looks like depending on their placement in the minigame, they'll jump a certain amount of spaces forward after it's concluded. But then the second mode on the Bowser Challenge Island is the one that I am the most excited for. Bowser Busters. This is essentially the grand return of boss battles to the series, what I consider to be NDQ's best addition to the franchise in Mario Party 9 and 10. In this mode, 8 players have to first run around breaking crates that have bombs in them, and then they can collect up to 20 to load into the cannon. Then, an 8-player minigame takes place, where players can gain special items to help trip up Bowser. And these 8-player minigames look like they could be some of the most fun the series has ever had to offer. The one showcase here has 2 players harvesting apples, another 2 turning that into apple juice, and the final 2 loading the apple juice cartons onto a truck. That progression between the tasks of each set of 2 players is really cool in my opinion, and I think it's the best spin we've seen on co-op minigames yet. Depending on how well the players do, they get a rank that then determines how many items they can get. Finally, they can use those items to try and defeat Bowser before the time limit runs out, and this whole dynamic just looks so cool. I've typically just played Mario Party for the main mode with friends in the past, but this seems like something that genuinely, if executed correctly, can keep me coming back to the game regularly. And the last island we have to talk about looks to be dedicated to motion control and rhythm minigames. Based on this snippet, more info will be revealed soon, but it mentions that you, quote, move your body and have a good time together, which I think is a dead giveaway for motion controls. Additionally, I think it would make more sense for the rhythm games that we've seen so far to be motion controlled, since based on the way they play, it just looks like they would make a lot of sense for them to be controlled that way. Not to mention, it would make a lot of sense for them to take place here, since there's no other mode where they really fit in. I'm really glad motion control minigames have gotten their own mode, since while I do enjoy them, having them as a separate experience allows for the rest of the game to be played with a pro controller, which my big hands and I very much appreciate. Because the floating lighthouse area is also included in this banner, that leads me to believe that this snippet we saw in the first trailer is also of a motion controlled mode, which again makes sense given the gameplay style. I can't wait to see more on this in the future, but there's not really much else we can glean from what we've already seen regarding this area. But at the end of the day, there's only so much that I'm able to find on this game before it actually releases, so what do you all think? Do you think this game is horrible and they should have just ported over Amiibo Party from Mario Party 10 and called it a day? Let me know down in the comments below. And seriously, thank you all so much for the support on the last video. It's actually insane to me. At the time of recording, it's reached 130,000 views, and the fact that that many people can enjoy something I've made, that's legitimately crazy to me. Thank you all so much. I'm going to be trying to get as much great content out to y'all as quickly as I can. Now that school started and I'm exhausted, it's going to take a little bit longer for me to go from video to video. You saw that with the duration it took to make this video, but I'm going to be trying my hardest to get content out to you all. So thank you for bearing with me. And if you like this video, then why don't you press the like button? I mean, if you got this far in the video, at this point, you probably did like it. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure to subscribe so you get notified when I upload those videos. But with all that out of the way, thank you all so much for watching. I'm Jacob with the Game Block, signing off. See ya!